we're here to chat about the Student Progress Committee, the SPC. It did amuse me because I've only been in this role not quite a year. I'm still getting my head around all of the acronyms that I didn't pick up on, that an earlier version of these slides talked about the Staff Progress Committee, which is a whole other thing, and possibly not even one that exists. So it's good to we are going to talk about the Student Progress Committee today. So here we go. I jumped the gun on this one, sorry. We've done the intros. We'll just pause for a sec just to do a karakia to settle us into the space. Excuse me while I look to my other screen rather than at you. But kia inoi tātou. Tūkia te wairua kia rere ki ngā taumata hei ārahi i a tātou mahi. Me tā tātou whai i ngā tikanga a rātou mā. Kia mau, kia ita, kia kore ai e ngaro, kia pūpuri, kia whakamaua, kia tīna. Huie, tai kie. I think this was Tamina's choice of karakia, and when she spoke to it the other day, she spoke about how she enjoys talking about exercising one's potential, which I think is pretty apt for a student progress committee, actually, and maybe starts to think about some of the things that you were mentioning, Sue, about, having that duty of care and passing some of that useful information along to other conveners. We can think about that. So we'll do a quick setting the scene of SPC. Sounds like you're pretty familiar with it, so I think we'll whip through that in record time. But again, please do stop, interrupt, ask questions at any stage. We'll just do a refresher or a reminder about incompletes versus conditions to pass. Sometimes it's easy to get those muddled in one's head. Just emphasizing that use of learning outcomes is the thing on which to kind of base how you write those conditions to pass. And then we've got some examples to share with you. And then depending on how we go for time, maybe having a little play with writing some conditions to pass, or given that you're all experienced coordinators and co-coordinators, opening that up for Q&A, and then we'll bring the session to an end. So, as I kind of alluded to there with that idea of fulfilling one's potential or exercising one's potential, the idea of SPC is to support students in their learning so that they can demonstrate what they have learned and continue to progress through the MBCHB program. So rather than gatekeeping, we're supporting students to pass. And you'll be familiar with the idea as a convener that what you're bringing to SPC are your recommendations. If I have failed an aspect of my OSCE, you're bringing that to the attention of the SPC, and then you have drafted up your recommendations of what it is that I need to do as a student in order to pass that particular aspect of your module. And then the SPC chats about it and either gives you the go-ahead or might make some further recommendations to amend or alter anything as required. Again, given the wealth of experience in the room, you'll know who sits on SPC. Don't think we particularly. Lynn did want us to emphasise in the series of workshops that as far as possible, where you're able, if you're not able to attend in your role as convener for the particular SPC regarding that, ALM 4-5 or TI year, to send a nominee in your stead if you're able to. Preferably somebody who can kind of speak, have a bit of context. Okay, and again, I'm sure you'll be familiar with this, that they're split. Everybody gets all of the invites and all of the agendas for all of the meetings, but it's just, you're welcome to simply attend the SPC that's relevant for your particular kind of year group that you work with. Yeah, this is just kind of summarizing those key things again about supporting students to pass or to continue to progress rather than kind of keeping them, and taking that strengths-based approach of what they are able to demonstrate, and so that we can then talk about what they're having a little bit of difficulty with, and that's the kind of the key focus area. But also just obviously we might have concerns about, say, their skills. We might have concerns about their knowledge, but we might also have concerns about their professional conduct. And to make sure that, if we are concerned about that again is something that can get noted on the ESOA, and it could be useful to just do a quick double check with the Student Code of Conduct on that one, in terms of thinking about giving them a conditional pass and what they need to demonstrate in order to to be PACM'd. I'm just using that acronym now as a verb, a pass after conditions met.
I was just going to add to that, just to say that I know from Lynn's point of view as chair of SPC, her preference is that if someone is borderline, she would prefer that you go ahead and give them the conditional pass. And that we need to, one of the things that Lynn, I think, is and I know the medical education unit is trying to change, is the culture of believing that a conditional pass is the equivalent of a fail. Because a conditional pass does not mean fail. A conditional pass just means that they haven't yet met the standard. And so, yeah, if there's, particularly when we're talking about professional behaviors, because that tends to be the one that's the biggest challenge, is if you're not sure if it should be a pass or a conditional pass, you're kind of on the edge between which, it's probably better to go ahead and give them the conditional pass with some really clear commentary and a really clear plan for how they can show that they have then met the conditions to pass. Because that, again, like Mark said, that gets them on the agenda so that then we're aware of any potential issues. It also means that we've got a better chance of being able to support them to improve sooner rather than later. I think Mark certainly will have been in SPCs where we've made it to the end of the year, and suddenly all this stuff has come out that no one actually put on the summaries of achievement. And a student has basically been bouncing along right on the edge, but with some fairly significant professional behaviors issues that suddenly kind of explode right at the end. And we don't want to get to that end point where it just all becomes a problem right at the end. We'd rather catch it sooner so that the student can be supported to improve over the course of the year. That's me.
Incompletes versus conditional passes. Let's just double check our understanding. Which is which and what is what.
Well, I use incomplete for they've been unwell, usually illness, or family catastrophe that actually needs their attendance. I think that's predicated that I'm let know what's happened. It can be after the fact because shit happens and people can't necessarily know after. So I use incomplete basically for illness or personal catastrophe, and what it means is they just haven't had the opportunity to attend the course or complete the tests or whatever. So that's how I use incomplete.
Cool. Yeah, I'll sometimes use incomplete if they've still not got their paper with some paperwork for our module. So if they've still not got it back, but they've given us a decent reason that doesn't make me worry about their professionalism or something, that I would want to maybe think about their conditions instead. Or sometimes we put them through a resus course and sometimes we can't schedule it during their run. So they get marked as incomplete, but then they get a little note explaining why they're incomplete and that it's nothing that they can change aside from attending it.
Yeah, occasionally we've used it if they're sick for an assessment, and we have to schedule them for the next run.
Yeah, I think that that captures nicely the kinds of things that we talk about as that kind of idea of what's within the student, what's within their control and what's not out of the, and out of their control. It's not in their control to necessarily be 100% hale and hearty all of the time. It's not within their control that there's suddenly, their grandmother passes away, versus I had the opportunity to do the thing, I just didn't do the thing. So yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, circumstances beyond their control, illness, as you were saying there, Amanda, delays from, supervisors or not being able to get on the appropriate course within that run, versus something that is their circumstances within their control. And so they're just failing or not yet demonstrating their ability to achieve to the required standard. So we recommend using learning outcomes as the basis for writing conditions to pass. And these can be found on Moodle. There are learning outcomes associated with every module. They may not necessarily have been chosen by you if you're a newish convener of your module, but you will have some associated with them. So Tamina was nicely saying the other day that this seems like a really big number. It is due to come down, I think, sometime this year, and it used to be an even bigger number. So we're doing well, team. So this is what it might look like. So if you go to your spot on Moodle, so what have we got here? ALM 4. General practice. So there were 105 learning outcomes associated with that module and broken down, as you can see there on the slide. And so it's pinpointing which of these aspects, an aspect or, a learning outcome. Ooh, yeah, English teacher, go Philippa. That is the thing that person needs to show that they are able to achieve. And that's what goes into your conditions to pass. This is possibly kind of the useful. We will send this out, so don't panic too much. I will PDF these slides and send them out. But just as some examples of conditions to pass, and these, you can see have been tagged to learning opportunities. And so there would be some kind of paragraph that would start, or not paragraph, some feedback that would start, but then, failed to demonstrate a satisfactory standard in consultation skills. And then there's a link there to a learning outcome. And then in order to have a pass after conditions met, they need to demonstrate a standard in this OSCE, which has been arranged for this date, or an assessment of consultation skills in future modules, often professionalism ones. If I leap down to the bottom example on that slide there, is in all subsequent modules. Just that idea that might not just be something that we want to just see once, but it needs to be an ongoing professional behaviour. So that's a skills one, the middle one is a knowledge one, and then that bottom one, that kind of professionalism goes. So
it's quite punitive saying you failed.
Yes, you're the second person to have pointed that out, yes, whereas I would, with my teacher hat on, I would say you have not yet achieved, or you have not yet met the satisfactory standard. Yes, you have failed. Yes, it's no wonder why people might see a conditional pass as a failure when the language thereof "you have failed" is a bit
that's my
dun,
fault.
dun, dun. Yeah, we might zhuzh the phrasing, shall we, T, before we send these ones out? Yeah.
I think those examples, once you got the wording right, they'd be actually very useful. Because it's quite nice, it'd be quite nice, well, just personally to standardise it, because I know sometimes when I get up to student number 23, I've had enough of writing stuff. But are there some other examples besides those that you've got? I mean, I'm just saying, if you've got a few examples, that'd be great for me as a sort of template for just checking what I'm doing meets the requirements and needs.
There is a document somewhere that I'm not entirely sure where it came from because I can only find it in my emails from years ago. But there's a document called like Guideline on Writing Conditional Passes, which has like 2 pages of sort of examples which were really useful for me because they're largely in the sort of clinical knowledge, communication, professionalism theme.
You're going to send, sorry to interrupt, Amanda, so that the slide that's now there, you're going to send these slides around,
Yes.
so we'll just be able to click on these
and
links.
we'll do them as a PDF so that the things are clickable too. Yeah.
Sorry, Amanda, I interrupted, but it looks like some of the stuff might be, I don't know about your document, but it may possibly be embedded in one of these documents.
Yeah,
We
probably.
We do have that. That was a document that came out from the assessment subcommittee many years ago. Many years ago now. I think it was pre-COVID. We can certainly hand it around to everyone. I will just note that that document still works on the non-compensatable progress requirements concept, which is kind of assessment subcommittees getting rid of. However, it does have, I mean, that's actually those examples that are on that I gave you that are on the slide. That's where they come from, just adapted to show learning outcomes instead of the NCPRs. But we can definitely make sure everyone gets that document as well. So it at least gives you an idea of some of the different ways you can write the, in order to demonstrate blah, blah, blah.
And I
Just
think
wherever you see NCPRs, think learning outcomes or objectives or conditions or presentations or whatever it is that you're using as your link to what they didn't yet achieve in order to, and what they need to achieve.
And I think Tamina gave useful advice to somebody else who was wanting other examples of conditions conditions to pass, and that was sometimes just in the SPC agenda itself can have sometimes have some useful.
Particularly the initial, I think it was, that was the initial paragraph of commentary that you would have leading up to it. Some of the previous SPCs, there's been some really nice ones that have been done where they've given some really, really good detailed commentary that are worth having a look at as examples.
I am going to, because we're 101. Oh, we're the SPC 101 session. So there we go. Somehow that just seems to make sense to me. So I'll just close with karakia, but then I'll stop the recording. So if you've got other questions, do feel free to hang around and ask. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you for coming along and spending some time with us today. So kia inoi tātou. Unahia ki te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia māma, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairo I te ara takatā, koia rā e rongo, whakairea ake ki runga, kia tina, tina huie, tai ki e.